Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch this afternoon. It's Tuesday, means it's time for another spiritual pick-me-up, and today we continue our series of lessons looking into the life of Nehemiah. Last week we introduced Nehemiah's story as the story of a man who's a builder. Now, we don't respect builders that much unless we are one. Yet we all live in homes. We work at factories or in offices or at schools, and we attend at church buildings that were built. God is a builder. Jesus built the church. My friends, we are all the recipients of the work of builders. And Nehemiah's story, pardon the exception of the world and Noah building the ark, might be the most impactful story in all of Scripture of a man who built. The walls of Jerusalem have been torn down, and in Nehemiah chapter 1, we learn about the pain of a man who sees something that shocks him, overwhelms him, punches him in the nose, you might say. Let's start there, Nehemiah chapter 1. These are the words of Nehemiah, the son of Hakaliah. It came to pass in the month of Chislev in the 12th year, as I was in Susa the citadel, that Hanani, one of my brethren, came with men from Judah. I asked them concerning the Jews who had escaped, who had survived the captivity, and concerning Jerusalem. They said to me, the survivors who are left from the captivity in the province are there in great distress and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem is also broken down, and its gates are burned with fire. So it was when I heard these words that I sat down and wept, and I mourned for many days. I was fasting and praying before the God of heaven. These four short verses today are the only passages I really want us to think about from Nehemiah. But I want us to see something that is clear to me. Nehemiah's pain is the pain we've all endured. The pain of loss, of suffering, the pain of unfulfilled potential, the pain of generational defeat. But notice that it wasn't his pain. It was the pain of his people. And he saw them as a collective whole. Even though he had comfort, he sat there in the capital, and we'll learn that he actually served as the cupbearer of King Ahasuerus. We see this man looking at God's people and their distress, and he is overwhelmed, sorrowful, sad, and feels this, let's just use the word, burden. It's like a load of bricks upon his chest. When it says that he heard these words, he sat down and wept and mourned for many days. Those are the actions of someone who seems lost. I've been lost before, and you have too. You're unaware of your surroundings. Time begins to lose its purpose and value. Food loses its taste. Company loses its pleasure, and you just sit there. I'm reminded of Job, just in his ashes. For a week, his friends just sat. This is not all that different. Job was mourning the loss of family and wealth and status and a relationship with his wife, and I think he thought a relationship with God. Nehemiah is mourning a loss of identity. God's people no longer look like his people. Jerusalem no longer looks like the home of those faithful people who were led out of captivity in Egypt and led by people like David and Solomon. Nehemiah looks at the world around him and says, who am I if God's people don't look like God's people? I think this has a lot to do with our present situation. The church doesn't look like the church did just a few months ago right now. And it might not for a few months. Our worship service, our outreach, our activities, our gatherings, they're going to have to evolve a bit. But what is our identity? Is it bound up in this location? If so, I'd say, my friends, that's not right. Is it bound up in what we do? In who we're associated with? Maybe. I think it's bound up in something deeper than that. It's bound up here and in what here and here does out there. You see, my head and my heart are what move my feet. what get my hands working, what unites me with my brothers and sisters, my relationship with God, and what it means I do for him. Nehemiah sees God's people and their distress. And he's overwhelmed because that's not what should happen to God's people. And I look at a lot of us today and I see that we're burdened. We're at the end of a very long rope. We think to ourselves, will everything ever be okay again? We're uncertain. We don't need to be, though. What we need to be is Nehemiah. We need to be people who feel the pain and then in that moment, fast and pray. In that moment, mourn what's been taken from us, but stand up with resolve to build it back. If Nehemiah's story was just about the pain, and it wasn't about his prayer to God, it wasn't about the planning he took, it wasn't about the perseverance that he shows, well, the pain wouldn't have done any good. But notice that the book starts with a realization that something is broken. In your life and in my life, things are broken. How do we fix it? Well, we trust in God. Tomorrow night, at our Wednesday night Bible class, there's going to be a discussion about sin. And the key to overcoming sin is a realization that it's not your master. That it doesn't come from God, but he's the source to overcoming it. That's how we overcome our problems as well. We turn to the one who is a problem solver. Life's full of pain. Today, we might all be keenly aware of that, but may I encourage you to take your pain and do something with it. Turn it over to God. Fast, mourn, pray, and plan for better days. Yes, life is full of brokenness and of moments that take your breath away. But it can also be full of moments of restoration. When life is restored, don't begrudge the pain. Use it. Take it and do something great with it. Not all of our heartache has to have a lesson. But I think there's value in heartache that does. Pain is a part of this world. Let it be a part that builds you up, motivates you, inspires you. Let it do to you what it did to Nehemiah a long time ago. Let it make you be keenly aware of all that needs to be done. And may it motivate you to get up and do it. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch today in our journey along the work and the life of Nehemiah. The pain he faced should not be taken for granted, but it should be understood as the motivation he needed to do what God needed him to do. Today, I hope it will be the same for you and for me and for all of the church. We see God's people suffering. May we get to work fixing what we can fix. Thanks for watching. I pray you have a wonderful day.